Welcome to the Dalitalks show. My name is Dali Rivera. I'm the founder of Dalitalks LLC and the Diversity and Anti-Bullying Academy. Every week, I bring in a special guest, usually somebody who can add value to the Dalitalks community, who can teach us about anything related to, self-improvement, helping kids. So today I have a dear friend of mine, Eve Austin Powers, who is a foster care marketing specialist. And I've been really excited about introducing her to you because I feel like she has such a wealth of knowledge, especially about foster kids and adoption. It's something that I think we really need to talk more about to help this community, and also to learn how we can get involved without actually having to foster or adopt, because a lot of people are under many misconceptions, and she's here to clear it all up. So without further ado, I introduce you, Eve Austin Powers. Hi, Eve.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. You're such a godsend. Thank you so much. Seriously, I love what you do. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So let's dive right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what motivated you to go into this field?
Well, what motivated me to go into this field is I grew up in foster care myself. So I was left in a hospital when I was born, and basically nobody was there to care for me at the time. And so basically my father, he had beaten my 2-year-old brother. And so my mom was, she had to go and fend for herself and try to protect herself. And the other thing was that she really didn't want me, because I look like my father. So I didn't have any parents really around. And basically a nurse was told that I was in the hospital and they didn't expect me to live because my mom had me when she was 6 months pregnant. So I was very premature and couldn't breathe. There was a lot going on. So a nurse actually took me in and as her own and started caring for me, and she became my very first foster parent. So I lived with her for a couple of years. And then I got back in touch with my mom, started living with her. And then basically around age 13, I was basically put back in foster care due to abuse and different things that were going on. So I decided to basically give back. I really wanted to help other foster kids because it's a tough journey sometimes. And I feel like, if you have the right people behind you, good parents, and I don't care if they're your own parents, it doesn't matter. People who just anybody who loves kids, they could really make a difference. And I really wanted them to experience what I had as an infant and, when I was a young child. I think it's important.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's gotta do something to you psychologically, I would think, right? So can you talk a little bit about how your experience in the foster care system has shaped you as an individual, and not just about you wanting to help and give back, but what are, just so that people understand what some kids like yourself might go through in their mind, because a lot of times kids are always in their heads, and you ask them like, what's going on, they're like, nothing. Oh, how was your day? Nothing.
Yeah, this is true. I totally agree with that. For me, basically in a nutshell, what can I say about that? It's just a lot. But like you said, what was going on in my head back then was I'm not wanted, I'm not loved. I didn't fit in anywhere. So that meant the homes that I was in, to the schools that I attended, I just felt like I didn't belong to anybody, and I felt like I wasn't loved, basically, because in those days in the foster homes that I was in, basically it was almost like, well, we're going to give you a roof over your head and food, and then that was it. There was no, other type of investment there. It was just, you're pretty much on your own. You just have a place to live and eat. That was basically it. So for me, I just had a lot of self-esteem issues, because of what I've already experienced. And then going to a new home and you don't know the people, they don't know you. And just that whole thing, for me, it was difficult at that time. And so what ran through my head a lot was I wasn't loved, you
Hmm.
know. And then when I went to school, it was like the same message. So it was a difficult time for me, but I made it through.
Yeah,
I
that's
made it
really
through. Yeah, because I had a lot of angels along the way too, though, that saw my worth and saw my value. And so there were some other adults and people like that who cared to be there for me. They tried to their very best.
so. Were
So
these people family members or just people at school or church leaders or anything like that?
mostly people at school, adults that worked at school, like teachers, people like that,
Oh,
who knew what was going on with me, and they really tried to change the narrative in my head about you're not good enough and all of that kind of stuff. So I did have that throughout the years. I will say that. And that really helped me a lot. It
yeah.
helped me feel like, okay, this isn't my parents saying that, they love me, but that there is a caring adult that I can go to when I'm experiencing, you know, um, pain from being bullied and different things like that.
Mhm.
So that made it a little bit easier for me. It made the journey a little bit easier.
Wow. It's amazing to always learn when you ask a child or an adult who went through some stuff when they were younger, who, like you said, you found some angels and you go to teachers. And that's really incredible because I feel like so many teachers are underestimated about the power that they have of influencing your child in a positive way beyond academics. It's just really nice to hear that, because in my children's school district, I found out a few years ago that their elementary school, that the school that they went to, has the largest population of foster kids. And my first thought was like, wow, I had no idea because it's not like a foster kid has a certain look or anything.
Right.
you know they're just kids like any other kids. And then my second thought was, oh my gosh, how can I help, or what misconceptions do I have that that are hindering their progress emotionally or academically. So can you talk a little bit about any type of misconceptions or any type of things that we might do accidentally to that would hurt a foster child?
Mm,
Sometimes adults say the dumbest things, and we say
it's
them
true.
around kids, and then sometimes we don't realize that we're hurting them by saying those things. So do you have any examples?
Mm. The first one that I really can think of right now is calling somebody a foster child, or and
Mhm.
and it's just so, because people don't think about that because they think, oh well, you are, but it's almost like, because that's what happened to me, especially in the families, because sometimes they would say, oh, you're a part of our family, but then they would say, oh, that's my foster child, instead of just
Oh,
saying my name or something like that. It was always foster child, then my name.
oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, and so that was a painful reminder, in a sense, that you're really not a part of us, or you're different, basically, in a nutshell. So that right there, that was a little difficult. And people, they say it all the time without, they don't mean any harm
Mhm,
by it. But because one of the biggest things a child needs is to feel like they belong
mhm.
to someone. And so when you say, oh, that's a foster child, that immediately separates them from people. So yeah, that's one of the things that I can think of off the
That's a
top of my
real good
head.
one. Never really thought about that, but I guess it makes sense. It's kind of like when children have a disability and they call them by the disability and not by, so and so has, and then
Mhm.
blank, whatever condition that is. Wow. Okay. Do you have any other misconceptions about maybe becoming a foster parent or becoming an adoptive parent?
Well, I would like to talk about the misconceptions of foster youth, because
Okay.
when I'm in the community, I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't want a foster child because they're crazy,
Oh yeah.
they, I just don't want them. I already have a child of my own. I don't need a troubled child. So it's already, the thought is, oh, foster youth equals troubled youth.
Mhm.
period. And that's not always the case. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, because when I used to talk to people and I used to say, hey, I'm a former foster youth, they're like, what? Oh, wow. They're so blown away because they're like, oh, you have a degree? Like, or, oh, you don't have any children? Or, and this was
Mm.
when I was in my, they just thought, like, wow, these kids, they grow up to, get on drugs and, just a whole slew of negative things. And that's not always true, because for me, I wasn't like that.
Mhm.
My thing was, I just wanted a loving, stable home. I went to school, I did all the work that I needed to do. My foster parents never had to worry about me getting into trouble. I just wanted a safe place to be. And that was it. And yes, there are some children who do have behaviors, but one of the things about that is they're not bad kids. The thing is that that's just coping. That's just negative. They've learned how to cope in certain ways that are self-destructive, basically, in a nutshell. But they're not bad, you
Right.
you know. And so, but a lot of people label,
Mhm.
foster kids as, oh, that's negative. They're terrible kids and they're going to hurt my kids. They have all these thoughts. And of course, the media,
Oh yeah.
they basically spread all those messages. You hardly ever hear about good foster parents or good foster youth doing awesome things in the world. You don't hear that. All you hear are the negatives. And it's sad to me, because it stops people from helping these children have loving homes and grow up to be successful, because in their mind, they're turned off completely. And it's
Right.
sad to me, because so many children need help.
Yeah.
And all they really want is love at the end of the day, love and protection, and to know that they matter. That's it.
There's- Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of people do listen to those negative things. For example, when I was doing some research about foster kids, I ran into a website and it had a list of statistics, and I was very, very surprised that the majority of statistics were negative.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, they're a foster kid in organization that advocated for children and for like encouraging, it was encouraging or trying to encourage people to get more involved. But when you put those statistics out front instead of like all the positive source, I feel like people would just want to run the other way and say, oh heck no, I'm not gonna get involved in this.
This is
Because
very
yeah, it's really hard as it is with just a child that is your own, and they have their own issues and you know them. So to bring in a child that you don't know and the first thing that you say about them is all of these negative things, then yeah, it's people are gonna just not, they're gonna say never mind, I've got my own issues to worry about. So speaking about that, about a parent who is considering fostering, what misconceptions are there about that? Because I know nothing about the process or about what to expect, or like how the paperwork goes, or the whole procedure of getting to that point to where you get a child. For example, one of the things that I wanted to ask, because you said having to adjust to a totally new family, is there a process for you? Like, are you given heads up a few days or a few months ahead, or like, hey, you're gonna go to this family? Is there an introduction process where you kind of meet them, or is just like, boom, here you go, you're at their door? Is that how it is? I mean, because in the movies it's like they're just at the door and that's it. So
right.
is it a little about that?
Well, that was my experience. And and basically the parents are basically told, the child's age and kind of what occurred a little bit and why they need care. And then basically, if they agree to take the child in, I mean, then they go to the house, and then you meet for the first time, and that's pretty much it. You're actually living there, unless
There's
there's
no.
an issue. So basically, there's no, like you were saying, period of time, and getting to know you, or meeting first, and then not really, no, because a lot of these children,
Mhm.
they're like I was. Basically, I came from I told my school counselor that I had been molested, and then they took me out the home immediately, and then they had to find somebody who had room in their home. And so these are emergency situations. So it's like they don't really have time to, okay, me first. No, it's basically, do you have space? And this child, they were abused, whatever the case may be. So there's unfortunately, no meeting before, and no. So it's basically the parents are kind of told the age, the gender, and kind of what went on a little bit, and that's it. And then so it's difficult sometimes for the child, but it just depends. I mean, some children, um, for some children, they just adjust. It just, everybody's different, but I think it also depends on the parents too. And if they act like they're welcoming and loving and supportive, that makes the transition easier on everybody, basically. But no, there's no period of time before that, unfortunately.
So that process happens regardless whether the child needs to immediately be relocated or not? There's no pre-introduction?
There's no pre-introduction. But what I will say, because we are a foster to adopt agency, which I love. So
Okay.
the cool thing is that basically the parents, they can have this child, they fall in love with the child, so they get to know all of the stuff that's going on with them. And then they could decide whether they want to adopt or not, because they have the period of time. But if they don't have to. And, there's other options basically if it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's the cool thing too about fostering, it's not forever, you know. So you're not just stuck forever with a child, in case it's just not a good match,
Right.
So you're not like, oh my gosh, I'm in prison now because I have to take the child and I don't really want to. And right. So you just talk to the social worker, and, other things will be taken care of to make sure that the child is in good hands, and, so.
So then if I'm thinking of fostering a child, and are there options of, like, do they give you an option of, okay, since this is your first time and you want to make sure that you're gonna be a good match with this child, do you know upfront like how much time you have with that child, or is that different per child? Or yeah, it's different.
It would be different because every child, their experience or what their current situation is different. Because some parents, they can get their life together in 3 months, or it just depends. It really depends. There's no guarantee of saying, oh, you're going to have this child for a year or 6 months, or yeah. But I will say this too, that I forgot to mention. We have what's called a respite program.
Okay.
So for people who don't know if fostering is for them, becoming a respite parent would be awesome, because what you're doing is, you're helping other foster parents, like, so if they need a break or anything like that for a week or something like that, and, you could take their child while they're gone for a week. So basically, you don't have to keep the child, 24/7 or anything like that. And then once they return, the child goes back. But that's another way of giving back, but you don't have to commit to 24-hour care or anything like that. So I will mention that because I think it's important, because I know that there are a lot of people that have good hearts that want to help children, but then they don't know for sure. Like, I don't know if I want to do this full time or if I'm able to, but they want to test it out basically, then respite parenting might be a good option for
That's good to know. I had no idea that that program existed. So then
them.
these parents who do the respite program, do they have to go through the same type of training as a traditional foster parent?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
So they would have to go to classes. So the orientation classes, trainings and home inspection. Yes, it'll be the same thing.
Interesting.
We want
So,
to make sure that the child is safe.
so what kind of background checks are done on the parents?
Basically, oh my gosh, just a lot of different things. And I'm not the perfect person to ask this question. It would be our certification specialist, Carlos. But what I do know, they do an extensive background. So fingerprinting for sure, of
Mhm.
course. I mean, an extensive check
Mhm.
to make sure that, you know, you don't have anything in your background stating that you've hurt children at all, period. So I know they do that. They do an extensive home inspection too to make sure, you know, the kids are going to be safe in your home. I know that for a fact. And then they definitely do background checks for each person in the home too, just to make sure, which I think is a good thing because I don't think they did that when I was in foster care, you know, because they had certain people living there that really shouldn't have been living there because they were a danger to kids. So
Mhm.
I love that we're so thorough
Mhm.
in checking and making sure that, you know, the safety of the child is being met.
So,
So
so if they have done an extensive background check on every member of the household, and then for some reason a new person decides to come into the home, are they obligated to report, hey, now there's a new member, they need to be checked too?
yes, everybody in the home, yes, needs to be checked to
That's
make sure because, you know, and it's interesting because I was in foster when I think it was my second or third home, and I lived with a family. And I think they only checked the two parents, but the other two family members lived there, and they actually were abusing one of the foster kids.
wow.
So you just have to be careful, you know, because then everybody had to leave. They had to shut down the home. It was just a lot. You know, it was really sad because the parents were great parents,
Yeah.
but the other people who lived there, you
Yeah.
know, they
Wow.
weren't so great.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that we do the things that we do because, you know, people look at that and say, oh my gosh, you know, that's just so much that you have to do. And but once you do it, everything else from there, you know, it's just worth it. It's worth it
Yeah.
because, you know, you actually helping a child grow, help them succeed, help them feel loved and special. That lasts a lifetime. It really does. I mean, even my foster mom, the first one that I had named Bessie Smith, I still talk to her to this day, and she's 89 years old.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and she still loves me. You know, we're family,
Yeah.
you know, and I never forgot the fact that she took me in and nursed me to health and all those things.
Mhm.
She's still my mom to
Yeah.
this day, you know. So the things that you might have to deal with, you know, becoming a foster parent is nothing compared to all the joy, all the love that you'll be giving to a child. They'll never forget you, never.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Ooh, this is it's it's a lot. I have so many questions going through my head. So, and forgive me if I sound completely ignorant, but I'm going
No,
to
it's
ask this one because, you know, like I said, the general population, I feel like gets their ideas about foster kids or, you know, kids who don't have permanent families in a certain way. And one of my thoughts is, because I'm thinking of like all these parents who go out to China or the Philippines or Latin America to adopt children. Um, and they adopt them usually from orphanages. And I never hear about children in the US being in orphanages. Is that a thing? Is that a real thing in the US? Or is every single child who is, you know, removed from their families, their permanent families, placed in a foster care? Or is there, because I know that I hear a lot that there's a shortage, that there aren't enough parents that qualify or willing to. So is there such a thing as an orphanage in the US, or is every child with a foster parent?
well, from what I understand, I know that they used to have orphanages, but that's not something that I think we have now, no.
Yeah.
So, and so we have foster homes, but then we also have what we call residential facilities. So
Mhm.
these are for kids who have basically they've had issues with the law or something like that, destructive behaviors and stuff like that. And so they live in a 24-hour facility. And they have a team that supports them in reaching their goals and different things like that. So we do have that, but orphanages, that's a thing of the past, from what I know.
So then how is this residential facility different than, say, a juvenile detention center if these are the kids who have had issues in the past?
They, from what I know, get one-on-one treatment. They have a plan for them, to help them. Okay, you're going to reach, you're going to go to school, you're going to do this, that. I mean, and they're very supportive and loving, and they get 24-hour care. And
Okay.
if they have mental issues or things of that nature, then they're also supported as well too. So it's just an all around wholeness or wellness. How can I explain that?
So
It's
they
just
take care, yeah, the whole child, not just
right,
academics
right.
or, yeah, so they do the mental health and physical and all that. Okay.
All of that,
Yeah.
yes. And it's a loving environment. It's not like you're in prison
It's
necessarily.
not a punishment. Okay.
Right. It's
Got
more of a, and then they encourage the kids,
it.
hey, you can do it versus, the other stuff.
Mhm.
So it's a loving, positive environment. On and I'm only speaking of ours. I'm not sure about any, other agencies and how they run theirs, but I know about us. So that's what we do,
Yeah.
because we want to love on the kids, not make them feel worse than
Right.
how they already feel about themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. Ooh, wow. Okay, I have so many questions, and this would be like hours long, but I know I've got to cut it down. So, what advice would you give people who want to foster or adopt kids? Like, how can they get started, or what should they think through first?
I would say what they should think through first is, um why do I want to do this? Because it's not easy work, you
Hmm.
know but it is worthy, and it is meaningful, and it is exciting work. But just search your heart and say, why do I want to do this? Is it because I feel ready to give love to a child? What are your motivations and what are your expectations? Because some parents feel like, um if I become a parent, I want them to automatically respect me, and sometimes that's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
It's a process, just like with anything. But I would suggest for them to really search their heart and soul and see because really this is a calling. This isn't just for somebody, hey, I want to be a foster parent today. No, I mean, this is a calling. So you should ask yourself, why do I want to do this? What are my expectations? And then also, so once in your heart you're ready, this is for you, um, and you just have to make sure that you have space for a child in
Right.
your home.
Hmm.
So that's the next step. And basically from there, what you would do is that you would schedule an appointment for a foster parent orientation. So during the orientation, they talk about everything, every step, everything that's required to become a foster parent. All of your questions will be answered and all of that stuff there at the orientation. And then you'll learn more about the agency, learn more about the children and their needs and stuff like that. So everything is pretty much explained there. And then from there, we have what's called pride trainings that would need to be completed. But the thing that I love about Trinity Youth Services is that we hold people's hands throughout the whole process. You're never alone. Even when you actually have kids in your home, you're never alone.
Okay.
But I love it because if you have any issues or anything, or if something didn't go through, or I mean, our team is exceptional. So, so you have the pride trainings, you get through that, the home inspection, you get through that. So sometimes the process takes about maybe 6 months or so,
Oh,
maybe less.
that's a lot
Depend,
shorter than I thought,
well,
actually.
depending on, because the thing is, there's certain things we need you to get into us, and some people they procrastinate. They or things just happen in life. But if you turn everything in on time and stuff like that, then the process can usually, it could be 6 months. For a lot of people, it's longer because they don't turn in the paperwork on time, or they don't complete their trainings and things of that nature. So, but yes, it's we make the process as simple as possible. We really guide people through everything, and if there's any issues, we help them with that. We're very thorough, supportive, loving. So it's an awesome experience.
So you mentioned something earlier that I should have probably asked earlier. You said that your organization, Trinity Youth Services, is a foster to adopt agency. So what does that exactly mean?
Well, it basically means, so when people sign up to become foster parents, they automatically sign up to become adoptive parents. So they don't have to go through the process again, basically,
Oh,
if
okay.
they decide to adopt. But if you're a foster parent who only wants to foster and not adopt, then you're fine too. You're not forced to become an adoptive parent. But if you decide to adopt the child that you're fostering, it's already, the process is already, you're going through that process already when you sign up. So it's easier. It's an easier thing to complete then.
So another concern that I hear a lot about from parents who want to foster or adopt is the cost, because we hear a lot about people paying thousands and thousands to go adopt a child from China, and supposedly it's cheaper there. So I think that that's another reason why parents here kind of are turned off to, adopting or fostering an American child. So is there any truth to that? Is it really costly versus going to a different country?
Well, through us, because we do have the foster to adopt program, you're not paying for that. I mean, it's very, very, very minimal. And when I say minimal, I mean like $100 for, and I think it's for the home, and no, it's something to, I can't remember exactly what it is, but no, it's not thousands of dollars or anything like that, due to the fact that you're adopting a foster youth. You're not going to an adoption agency and, you know, finding a child there to adopt. That's totally different. You're
Oh.
actually going to be adopting a foster child through our program. So it's the same cost, if you will, as fostering a child or getting your house prepared for a child, basically, in a nutshell. Because some people have to do different things to their home to make sure it's safe, or they have to pay, I don't know, for a background check or whatever the case is. So it's little, that's what I mean by small fees, basically,
Okay.
but nothing astronomical at all, because we want the kids to be with loving parents. So of course we're not going to charge people
Yeah.
to do that.
Oh, that's good to know, because that's one of the things that I always think of. I always think like, well, how expensive? Because some people also don't feel like they qualify because they don't make a certain amount of money, or they don't
Mm,
have a really nice home. So I see that that's not really the case. You don't have to have a really beautiful, gorgeous home in the best neighborhood or anything like that. It's just more about, I guess, just having a safe home, right? Where,
right.
has enough space, they're not cramped up, they're not going to be, like freezing if there's no heating, or, passing out because it's too hot and they have no AC at all or anything like that.
Yes, this is true. And it's so sad, people, because I see how people come up to me saying, I want to foster, but I don't own my home. And I'm thinking, honey, you don't need to. As
Mm.
long as you have a safe, like you just said, and you can rent your home, you can have an apartment as long as there's a room for the child, and you don't have to make a certain amount of money. We're not looking for rich people or something like that. As long as you can take care of yourself, um, you know, then you're fine. If you're able to pay your rent and bills and stuff like that, you're taking care of yourself, then you're fine with us.
Hmm.
And then the other thing people think is that they have to be married in order to be foster parents, but that's not true either. You
Yeah.
could be single.
Okay. What
Um,
about restrictions on LGBT people who want to adopt or foster?
with us, there are no restrictions.
Okay.
It's still the same thing that we look for. Do you have a safe place for the child? You know, that kind of thing. So it's the same thing. Did you pass background? That's it.
Yeah, yeah, because I've heard that one too, where um, some people, they have to, like, really, they struggle finding an organization that will allow them to foster or adopt simply because they're gay, and um, to me, it makes no sense. But I guess there are some organizations that do have that restriction. Okay, well, this has been so insightful, and I have, of course, so many more questions I'll probably ask you offline because otherwise we'll be here all day. But I'm aware that you have youth Trinity Services where they can people can reach out to them, right? So, what's the best way to reach out to them, and what would they like people? What would you like people to do after watching this interview?
Hmm. The best way to reach out, I would say, is to go to the website. So it's Trinity YS as in Sam
Hmm.
.org. That's our website. Um, and what I will say too, we do have social media
Hmm.
sites. So Facebook.com is Trinity YS. Then we have Instagram. So it's at Trinity Youth Services for Instagram. We also have a Twitter account. And so that's going to be Trinity YS _ORG. So you can find out more information about our amazing agency. I mean, I love Trinity. We've helped over 65,000 children and families
Wow,
have brighter futures, and we've been around since 1966 and counting. So, and we're very passionate about what we do. And
that's
so
awesome.
I
So,
really encourage people who are interested in fostering or adopting to go through our agency. And especially, you know, for me, being a former foster youth, I would never work for an agency that doesn't have foster youth as its top priority.
mhm.
And so I'm definitely here because of that.
Awesome. That's awesome. So what about if a person is not ready to foster or adopt, how can they help the cause? How can they help children without directly, having them in their home?
Right. That's a great question. So basically, we have a mentoring program,
Mm,
and you can basically mentor a child for 2 hours a month. That's the minimum that we ask. And you'll still be making a difference in the youth of a foster. I'm sorry. You'll still be making a difference in the life of a foster youth. So you can do that. The other thing is our sister agency, which is called the Children's Foundation of America.
mhm,
They offer volunteer opportunities. So basically, throughout the year, they do different things. One is called Birthday in the Bag, where they go and they make sure that the foster youth that have birthdays that every month that they get the items, you know, gift items and things of that nature. So you could be a part of that. We have a lot of events going on. You can volunteer at events. There are just so many different opportunities. Or if you don't want to mentor or volunteer, you can definitely donate to the Children's Foundation of America. They're really awesome because basically, in a nutshell, they make sure that foster youth get essential items that they need. Because for me, when I was in foster care, we only got, let me see, one clothing allowance a year, if that, and it was only like $125 or something like
ooh, you
that.
can't buy anything with that.
Yeah, and
Oh my God.
especially even back then, you
Yeah.
couldn't. And
Yeah.
so I had to walk around, you know, with clothes that were too tight, or wear the same clothes all the time. I mean, and then of course I was the laughing stock of the school
Mhm,
because of it, you
mhm.
know. So I definitely think that donating would be awesome because the money really is going for foster youth. It's not going in somebody else's pocket. They do a lot of extraordinary things for our youth, making sure that they have money for school, making sure that they have clothes, making sure they have backpacks, you know, essential necessities that they need to have. And so they go above and beyond for
Mm,
foster youth. And it's not even just our foster youth, but just foster youth in the Inland Empire area too.
okay.
So it's not just our agencies, but other agencies benefit too as well.
Wow. Wow. This is amazing. You've given me so many ideas as you're talking. I'm like, oh, I gotta do this note to self. I'm writing away on my sticky notes here. So, well, thank you so much. This has been so informative, and actually it's motivating me because it's making me realize, I need to step up my game and do more for this community because, I mean, especially because my kids' school, I know that they have a
Mhm.
big population of kids in the foster care system, and I'm pretty sure that there's something I can do. I always get involved with a lot of stuff, but I mean, 2 hours a month,
Mhm.
that's so doable, or just
Yeah.
donating. Because I remember one of my friends gave me a whole bunch of like school supplies and stuff, and I thought, who do I give it to? I'm like, well, now I know who. So you'll be hearing from me. But so any last tips you want to leave our viewers with?
Any last tips? That's a good question. I would just say if we don't take care of our kids now, we're gonna have to worry about them when they get older.
Yeah,
And this is the truth. I mean, we talk about how things are, the crime rate and all these different things going on. But the truth of the matter is we can stop a lot of this stuff from occurring. We can help young people now make better choices that's going to help lead them to success versus going down a path, of crime, homelessness, all these other things. We everybody can do something. That's really what my belief is. Everybody can do something
absolutely.
to make this world a better place.
Yeah,
And so any little bit that you can do will help somebody else tremendously, even if you don't see it today,
yeah,
10 years later, because, you mentored a child. They're going to remember that. They're going to remember what you told them and decide not to use drugs, not to sell drugs, seriously.
yeah,
So I really encourage everybody to think about what can they do, what's in their heart to do to help our youth, because they're going to grow up one day, you know, and who they are as a person. I just feel like we're a community, so we should definitely help raise these kids because their parents aren't able to, and we can say, well, that they're not my problem. That's to me, that's part of the problem now is we say, oh, that's not our kids, we don't have to worry about it. But you will be affected in some way or another.
definitely.
Our community will.
Yeah. Thank you so much for leaving us with those last words. And thank you for making time to, share all of this information with us and for the work that you do. It's really, really incredible. And like you said, one thing that gives me comfort is that if you who know what it's like are willing to speak for this organization, then that makes me feel comfortable donating my time or money or, going through them for any type of way that would like to get involved in. So thank you for that. And
Thank
I will have all of the information on how to get a hold of Trinity Youth Services in the show notes. All the links will be there in case you're watching this and you want to, just donate time, or if you are interested in becoming a foster parent. And, just know that if you are going to go that route, you will not be left alone. Like Eve said, they're going to hold you by the hand the whole way through, even when that child comes to your home. You will continue to receive support and resources so that you can have a really good experience for yourself and of course the child. So thanks again, Eve. I really appreciate your time, and if you're watching this, please let us know if you have any questions. Comment below, and we will try to answer your questions. Also, if there's a takeaway that really resonated with you, or if there's any information, if you were a foster kid at one point and you want to let us know about something in particular that you feel strongly that people should know about, please comment in the write them in the comments below. And thank you once again for watching. I hope that you have a really wonderful start of your new year, since this is airing in January, and I'll talk to you next week for the next show. Thanks. Bye bye.